Have you ever heard of the worst maritime disaster in American history? It's a tale as chilling as it is forgotten. Picture this. The year is 1865. The steamboat Sultana is sailing on the mighty Mississippi River. A vessel designed for a capacity of 376 souls, she was burdened with a staggering 2,128 passengers. Most of these were paroled Union prisoners, men who had survived the horrors of war only to meet a tragic fate. When 3 of the Sultana's 4 boilers exploded, the death toll rose to an appalling 1,167. The captain too was among the lost. Yet this catastrophe, sandwiched between Lincoln's assassination and the culmination of the Civil War, barely made a whisper in the press. A tragedy that shook the nation yet remained largely overlooked. Why? Let's delve deeper. The Sultana, a steamboat meant to carry fewer than 400 passengers, was instead carrying an unthinkable 2,128 souls. The Mississippi River, a winding symbol of American freedom, was about to bear witness to an unimaginable tragedy. The Sultana was not built for such a burden. Overcrowding was an understatement. Soldiers, paroled Union prisoners were packed like sardines into every nook and cranny. They were men who had survived the grueling ordeal of Civil War prisons, filled with anticipation of home and the embrace of loved ones. They were drawn to the Sultana like moths to a flame, the promise of a swift journey home too alluring to resist. But beneath the deck, a disaster was brewing. The Sultana's 4 boilers, the heart of the steamboat, were in a weakened state. One in particular showed signs of significant wear and tear, yet instead of heeding the alarm bells ringing in the engineers' minds, the decision was made to patch up the damaged boiler, a mere band-aid on a gaping wound. The Sultana was a ticking time bomb, and the clock was running out. But why, you ask, was the Sultana allowed to sail in such a state? Greed played its part. Each soldier on board meant more money in the pockets of those in charge. The military, eager to send their boys home, turned a blind eye to the glaring safety issues. The captain, convinced of the Sultana's resilience, chose to place his trust in the steamboat's shaky bones, and so the Sultana, a symbol of hope for so many, became an unwitting harbinger of doom. The men on board laughed, sang, and dreamt of the life that awaited them, oblivious to the danger lurking beneath their feet. Despite the obvious dangers, the Sultana sailed on, carrying dreams and hopes of freedom, unaware of the imminent disaster. As the steamboat cut through the Mississippi's dark waters, one could only wonder if things might have turned out differently, had warnings been heeded, had greed not overshadowed humanity. In the early hours of April 27, 1865, 3 of Sultana's 4 boilers exploded, turning the steamboat into a fiery death trap. As the calm serenity of the Mississippi night was shattered, the once bustling steamboat was transformed into a chaotic scene of despair and destruction. The explosion was so powerful, it was as if the very heart of the Sultana had been ripped apart. In an instant, over 2,000 souls found themselves in a fight for survival amid the roaring flames and icy river waters. The deafening roar of the boiler's explosion was quickly replaced by the screams of terrified passengers and the crackling of the merciless fire. The steamboat, once a symbol of freedom for the paroled Union prisoners on board, had become a floating inferno. The fight for survival was fierce and unforgiving. Every breath was a battle against the smoke, every movement a struggle against the engulfing flames and the freezing river. Among the chaos and confusion, the captain of the Sultana met his untimely end. His leadership and command lost to the depths of the Mississippi, leaving the surviving passengers in a state of leaderless panic. In the aftermath of the explosion, the military was hesitant to hold anyone responsible for the disaster. The officers in charge of the Sultana's operations managed to evade the hand of justice. Despite the staggering loss of over 1,000 lives, there was no accountability, no one to answer for the negligence that led to the overcrowded conditions and the faulty boilers. The Sultana disaster was a tragedy lost in the annals of history, overshadowed by the end of the Civil War and the assassination of President Lincoln. Yet, it remains a potent reminder of the catastrophic consequences of negligence and the human cost of war. A tragedy of immense proportions, the Sultana disaster remains a